Hello, I'm Dr Imogen Tedbury and I'm an art historian. I've been researching Royal Holloway's radical portraits of some of the first women academics, the principals and pioneers who made Royal Holloway and Bedford College. Today I'm investigating our portraits of Emily Penrose. Penrose was a classicist, lecturer and women's education visionary. She was the principal of Bedford College, the principal of Royal Holloway College and the principal of Somerville College, Oxford. This painting of her dates from 1907, the year she left Royal Holloway, when the women of the college commissioned her portrait from Philip de László, a society portrait painter who was famed for painting beautiful ladies in their beautiful dresses. This portrait, however, is rather different, and I think it tells us something about the force of Penrose's mind and de László's respect for her. She's standing in a real position of power here, gazing into the distance. In the diagonal drape of her academic hood, de László draws on a long tradition of painting classical female figures like the Muses or the Sibyls. You can see she's got one thumb kind of in her pocket, and she's also holding her mortarboard in this hand. The mortarboard gown and blue hood are stark reminders of how controversial women's higher education still was at the time. Penrose studied at Oxford before the university allowed women to graduate, and this is the academic dress worn by the so-called steamboat ladies, women like Margaret Duke who travelled by boat to get their degrees from Trinity College, Dublin, at a time when Oxford and Cambridge still refused women the right to graduate. In 1920, Emily Penrose finally persuaded Oxford University to award degrees to women, and she received the red silks of an Oxford graduate at long last. During my research, I came across another portrait believed to depict Emily Penrose. We know very little about this painting. It shows a studious young woman simply dressed, reading in her study. I wondered, when was this portrait painted? And who was the artist? Could the answers lie in the painting itself? Taking a closer look at the lower right-hand corner of the canvas, it's just possible to make out a signature, T. Blake Workman. Workman was an established portrait painter and engraver in 19th century Britain. And according to records found in the college archives, a portrait by Workman was given to Bedford College in 1899. But this painting wasn't a portrait of Emily Penrose. In fact, as this illustrated catalogue of the 1898 summer exhibition shows, our painting is actually a portrait of Millicent Fawcett. Millicent Fawcett is best known today as a leading suffragist, but she was also an important campaigner for women's access to education. She founded Newnham College in Cambridge and lectured on educational reform across the UK, even at Bedford College, where her daughter studied. In 1898, Fawcett had become one of the first women in the UK to receive an honorary doctorate from the University of St Andrews. This was cause for great celebration among the suffrage movement. But women's right to higher education was still contested at the time. Just the year before, Cambridge University had voted against women getting degrees. We can only imagine the kinds of debates that took place in front of the painting at the Royal Academy that summer. But it seems clear that this portrait is intended as a celebration of Fawcett as a scholar and a thinker. Hanging on the wall at Bedford College, the portrait would have been an inspiration to the young women who studied there. Looking at the portraits again, side by side, it's hard to imagine how anyone mistook Fawcett for Penrose. But the portraits do have some things in common. They both depict pioneering female leaders who had recently received degrees, and both artists portray these women sympathetically, drawing on artistic tradition to create modern portraits of modern women. I believe we owe a great debt to these women, to Emily Penrose and Millicent Fawcett and their fellow fighters. It was their dedication that finally won women their right to graduate.